Klamath County 911. What's your emergency?
There's a woman. She just flagged down my car. She's bleeding. She's hysterical.
Okay, ma'am, what's your location?
North El Dorado Avenue in Klamath Falls. She says she was locked in a cell. She says she just escaped.
You said a cell?
That's what she's saying. She's got blood all over her hands. She's terrified. She grabbed a gun from somewhere. She has a gun.
Ma'am, I'm dispatching officers now. Can you see where she came from?
Which house? She's pointing. She ran from a house back there. Please hurry.
All units. 1336 North El Dorado Avenue. Possible assault. Victim on scene. Armed.
That 911 call came in just before noon on July 15th, 2023. I'm Steve Rode, and I spent a couple of years as a police dispatcher taking emergency calls. I also worked surveillance photography with local law enforcement, and later in my career, I was the chief pilot for public safety operations, flying missions for police, fire, and state departments. I've heard panic on 911 calls before. I've heard real fear. And when I listened to Melissa Gary's call, the full recording runs about 6 minutes. I heard both. What she described on that call would trigger one of the largest federal investigations in Oregon's recent history. It would reveal a predator who had spent months planning, purchasing equipment, and constructing infrastructure. And it would expose system failures that allowed him to escalate from assault to kidnapping to building a concrete prison cell in a residential neighborhood. This is a 3-part series about what happened in that cell, how it was built, and what the investigation revealed. It's also about 2 women who survived, a witness dressed as Rosie the Riveter, who stopped to help a stranger, and the evidence that ultimately sent a predator to prison for life. Before we begin, I need to give you the standard disclaimer. The content you are about to hear contains descriptions of kidnapping, sexual assault, and violence. While I don't include graphic details, some listeners may find this material disturbing. All case facts come from court documents and official records. For educational context, I feature Dr. Patricia Wells, a fictional criminologist whose insights are based on established research and expert consultation. Feel free to download the case files at truecrimeunheard.com. This episode, Episode 1, The Escape. Melissa Gary wasn't supposed to be a hero that day. No, she was supposed to be at a comic book convention. She was dressed as Rosie the Riveter, the World War II icon of strength and determination. Red bandana, denim shirt, and that flexed arm pose, "We can do it!" She was driving through a quiet Klamath Falls neighborhood heading to the convention when she saw a woman running toward her RAV4 along North El Dorado Avenue. The woman was hysterical, bloodied, and in shock. Gary stopped her car. As a former dispatcher, I can tell you that decision to stop, to get involved, to not drive away, that's not automatic. Most people don't stop. They call 911 from a distance. They worry about their own safety. They assume someone else will help. But Melissa Gary stopped. According to the FBI affidavit filed 3 days later, the woman who flagged down Gary's vehicle had just escaped from a concrete cell. For hours, she had repeatedly beaten a metal security door with her fists until they were bloody. She broke through welds. She destroyed a second deadbolted door by smashing the wooden frame. she scaled a 6-foot fence. And before she fled, she grabbed a handgun from her captor's vehicle. The woman's name would become known in court documents as Adult Victim 1, or AV1. Federal prosecutors would later describe her escape as extraordinary. Her survival would trigger an investigation spanning multiple states and reveal a predator who had been planning for months. When Klamath Falls police responded to Gary's 911 call, they found blood on a wooden fence. They found a cell made of approximately 300 concrete blocks. They found a metal security door installed in reverse, so it could only be opened from the outside. And they found 2 dead-bolted doors, neither with interior handles. And they found a written document titled Operation Takeover. The man who built that cell was named Negasi Zuberi. Court records show he was 23 years old in 2017. 6 years later, that makes him 29 when he kidnapped AV1. He had 2 young sons, and 4 years earlier, he had actually appeared on the television show Judge Judy. He was wearing a suit and a tie and winning his case against his ex-partner. To anyone watching that episode, he seemed completely normal.
The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
Something is simple to me. Evidently, it wasn't as simple to you. Did you notify the police?
I didn't want to put her in jail.
You going to jail, bro. You going to jail. I'm calling 911 right now.
This is the story of what happened between that Judge Judy appearance and the concrete cell. It's the story of meticulous planning, escalating violence, and ultimately, one woman's refusal to die without a fight. AV1's ordeal began approximately 450 miles north of Klamath Falls in Seattle, Washington. As someone who's coordinated search and rescue operations, I can tell you, 450 miles is deliberate. That's not impulse. That's geographic displacement. It means longer before anyone realizes someone is missing. It means victims are disoriented, unsure of location. And it crosses jurisdictional lines, which complicates investigations. I can tell you from personal experience, cross-department cooperation is messy and often disjointed. Zuberi understood all of that. It was around midnight on July 14, 2023, along Aurora Avenue, an area known for sex work. According to the FBI affidavit, Zuberi solicited AV1 services and then claimed to be an undercover police officer. He showed her what appeared to be a badge. And then he pointed a yellow and black taser at her. Within moments, the affidavit states, AV1 was restrained, handcuffed at her wrists, leg irons around her ankles. Zuberi placed her in the back seat of his Honda Pilot and began driving south through the night. The criminal complaint details what happened during the 7-hour journey. According to prosecutors, Zuberi made several stops along the route. At each stop, he sexually assaulted her. The complaint states, Zuberi pulled his vehicle over and forced AV1 to perform both oral and vaginal sex. Zuberi attempted to have anal sex with AV1, but stopped after AV1 pleaded for him not to do it. AV1 noticed something during the journey. Zuberi was doing something with aluminum foil. He told her it was a police trick. I was looking at the evidence inventory with Dr. Wells. When we got to the cell phone jammers, she stopped. Let's hear what she had to say.
2 commercial-grade jammers, one with 8 antennas, one with 16.
He bought those in December 2022 for about $400 each, nearly $800 in jamming equipment. 7 months before kidnapping AV1.
And AV2 testified she saw him wrap her phone and the battery separately in aluminum foil. That's Faraday cage logic, block electromagnetic signals. But he also had nearly $800 worth of electronic jamming equipment.
So the tinfoil was...
Redundancy. Electronic jamming plus physical shielding. Multiple layers of counter-surveillance. That level of technical sophistication suggests he'd researched this extensively. He was planning for victims who might hide phones, or for weak jammer signals in rural areas.
Both victims said their phones wouldn't work.
Because he made sure of it. This isn't someone who panicked and grabbed a victim. This is someone who spent months eliminating variables.
According to the FBI affidavit, there was a moment when AV1 realized the truth. The complainant describes it. When AV1 inquired why the trip was taking so long, Zuberi replied he was taking her to a substation. AV1 observed the map application on Zuberi's cell phone state that Zuberi was 2 hours and 4 minutes away from destination. AV1 knew at that point that Zuberi was not a police officer and that she was being kidnapped. At approximately 7 a.m. on July 15th, Zuberi stopped at a truck stop north of Klamath Falls. He placed a hooded sweatshirt on AV1, backwards, covering her face. Then he drove to 1336 North Eldorado Avenue. In the garage stood the structure he had spent months building. According to trial exhibits, the structure was approximately 6.5 feet by 8.5 feet, roughly the size of a small bathroom. It was constructed from approximately 300 concrete blocks. Standard concrete blocks weigh 30 to 35 pounds each. So do the math. Over 10,000 pounds, 5 tons. Trial photographs show it was framed with 2x4 studs, insulated with fire and sound guard insulation, and drywalled on the interior. The seams were sealed with spackle, and the ceiling was engineered wood. The door system was particularly deliberate. The black metal security door had been installed in reverse, with the hinges on the outside, impossible to open from within. Behind that was a white wooden door, also with a deadbolt. Neither door had an interior handle. Both required keys from both sides. The cell was soundproofed. According to the FBI affidavit, when Zuberi locked AV1 inside that morning, he left the residence. The affidavit doesn't specify what excuse he gave her. Maybe paperwork, maybe an errand, whatever. It doesn't matter. She was left alone. AV1 briefly slept. When she awoke, she came to the terrible realization she would likely die if she did not attempt to escape. She had no tools, no phone, only her hands and her will to survive. So she began to punch. Try something for me. Make a fist. Punch the wall next to you once. You feel that? Now imagine doing that full force hundreds of times Imagine your knuckles splitting. Imagine continuing anyway. Imagine doing it for hours in the dark, not knowing if it's even working. That's not desperation. That's calculation. That's someone who decided, I will destroy my hands if that's what it takes to get out of here. Court documents detail what happened. AV1 punched through the metal door repeatedly. She pulled at it with her legs, but it was deadbolted from the outside. The styrofoam insulation in the door took the brunt initially, but she kept going. She punched until the welds on the metal screen began to break. Blood from her hands stained the door and walls. She created an opening and ripped the mesh off the upper portion of the security door. Then she faced the second door, the white wooden door, also deadbolted from the outside. So she kicked and smashed at the door jamb. The wooden frame splintered and broke. Forensic analysis would later determine that the door wouldn't have broken this way if it hadn't been deadbolted. It would have simply swung open, but because it was locked from the outside, she had to destroy the frame itself. Finally, she was through. In the garage, AV1 saw Zuberi's Honda Pilot. She reached in and grabbed a handgun from inside. The same firearm he made sure she knew he possessed. And then she fled through the side door. She climbed the 6-foot fence, leaving blood on the wood. And she ran down North Eldorado Avenue until she saw a RAV4, driven by a woman dressed as Rosie the Riveter. Melissa Gary stopped and called 911. What police discovered in the hours following AV1's escape would prove this wasn't random violence. No, this was planned. It was methodical. And most disturbing, ongoing.
Police! Search
In
warrant!
the bedroom at 1336 North Eldorado Avenue, investigators found a black notepad. Inside was a handwritten document titled Operation Takeover. The instructions were simple, but chilling. Leave phone at home. Make sure they don't have a bunch of people in their life. You don't want any type of investigation. That reminds me of the logic used by serial kidnapper Gary Ridgway and what he taught us from the episode Overlooked in Plain Sight. You might want to go back and listen to that one. It's worth a listen if you want to know why this strategy works. A blue journal contained what prosecutors would later call a target list. Names of women in their 20s. Next to the names were work schedule screenshots. 2 women on that list, identified by first names, Quinn and June, were still alive when discovered, still completely unaware they had been targeted. Trial exhibits included a drawing of an underground cell. Messages from Zuberi's iCloud showed he'd sent GPS coordinates to a friend, identifying a location at his Bonanza, Oregon rental property, where he wanted to build an underground structure. One message asked, "Hey, what material used for prison or jail floors?" Another asked specifically, if hands could destroy it. He'd been researching whether hands could break through prison materials. AV1 had just proven they could. But when investigators reviewed Zuberi's Blink home security camera footage from May, they saw something that changed everything. 6 weeks earlier, on May 6, 2023, Zuberi had kidnapped and sexually assaulted another 21-year-old woman in Klamath Falls. Court documents identify her as Adult Victim 2, or AV2. And when AV2 was in Zuberi's garage that night in May, she saw something stacked against the wall. Concrete cinder blocks. You see, the cell wasn't finished yet, but it would be. In the next episode, we'll go back to May 5th, 2023, Cinco de Mayo, an Irish pub in downtown Klamath Falls, a 21-year-old woman celebrating with friends, and the predator who'd been planning for months finally made his first move. I'll also reveal what happened when AV2 tried to report what happened to her, why local police were reluctant to investigate, and how that 2-month delay gave Zuberi exactly the time he needed to perfect his plan. This is True Crime Cases You Haven't Heard. I'm Steve Rode. Episode 2, The Blueprint, drops next week. So make sure you're subscribed to show notifications. If you want to download the source documents from this case or get notified when new episodes drop, visit truecrimeunheard.com and sign up for the free email list. You can also use the comment form there to send feedback or questions. I read every one and might feature yours in a future episode. See you for now.